of the person that will be introducing you. So that's one good benefit. But another thing is you want to give them a quick bio. I have a bio that I've written for me that I give to people who introduce me. And it's just a quick paragraph stating who you are, what gives you the right to speak, a little background about yourself, what your expertise is, things like that. So for example, mine starts off with somebody might get up and say something such as, all right, today we're going to have our keynote speaker, Dan O'Connor, speak to us all. Then they'll pull out their card. And because they're not professional speakers and they can read from the card, that's okay. And they'll say things such as, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something along the lines of. So you want somebody else to do that for you. They take care of housekeeping. They get people in their seats and quiet. They give a little bit about your bio so that you don't have to, because you do not want to start off by saying, good morning, everybody. My name is Dan O'Connor, and I've been doing XYZ for the past 15 years with Acme Corporation. You don't want to start telling them, let me tell you why I have the authority to speak to you. You should never, ever justify why you're speaking in front of a crowd. Now, a lot of people will tell you to do so. I've been to a lot of different public speaking training courses, and many times they will tell you at the beginning when you're starting to talk, justify why you're there. Tell what your expertise is. They should be able to, by the end of your presentation, judge if you are an expert in the topic matter that you just delivered. So if you tell them, I'm an expert, I graduated head of my class from Harvard with a summa cum laude degree, if you go on and on about your credentials and then you fall flat in your presentation, it made no difference that you said that you were an expert. In fact, people will probably tend to think, another person who's overeducated but doesn't really know how to implement what they're educated in. So skip all of that and simply have somebody else introduce you. And number two, when you start, here's a tip. There are many different ways to start presentations, but here's a quick tip for many of you. You'll really find this useful. Start off giving a powerful statistic. For example, if somebody were to introduce me and if I were giving a presentation trying to convince a company to, let's say that I'm in the web design business and I want that company to use our services to develop their mobile platform, their mobile, let's say, applications and their mobile website. I would want to think, why do I want them to do, or what's going to convince them to do this? Why do they need to do this? Well, more people are using mobile phones than ever before. Find a compelling statistic that is going to support everything that you say after it and just blurt it out, okay? So I could start off by saying something such as, a recent study from Harvard University showed that 36% of online web users are surfing the web using their mobile phones. And this number will increase to more than 65% by the year 2014. By the year 2015, nearly 3/4 of the customers who are viewing us online are going to be doing it using their mobile devices. Are you prepared? So you want to start off. Now, that's not necessarily what I would say. I just thought of that on the fly. I would want to script out that first statement. Really practice it, because from then on you can wing it. But you want to script out that first statement. And a great way to open with a bang is to start off. For example, if I were doing a seminar on communication, I'm going to make something up, so don't take this as gospel. A recent study by Johns Hopkins University showed that 73% of those going through a divorce state that they would prefer to stay in their marriage, and they state the number one obstacle that prevents them from doing so is communication. So you want to deliver some statistic that has to do with your subject matter, that's going to be compelling, that's going to make people think, and deliver that right off the bat, bang. So there you go. Those are two great tips. Tip number one, get somebody to introduce you. And tip number two, find some statistic, some recent study that's going to buttress whatever it is that you're about to say, and use that as your opening line, then pause after it, and then start speaking. Hot tip. Remember, never say, good morning, everybody. And another hot tip I'm going to give you, many times during my presentations, I actually encourage people to interrupt me as I go along and ask questions as they see fit, because that's just different for me. I can do that in my presentation. However, if you are giving a presentation, as I have done, where you may have a time limit, for example, 1 hour or 20 minutes, and you have to deliver the content that you need to deliver within that time frame, and there's a set time for question and answer at the end, do not make the mistake at the beginning of telling people, please hold your questions till the end. After you give your opening line, generally, you'll have time after a couple of minutes, after you've warmed up a bit, to say, oh, by the way, if any of you have questions today, do not say, please hold them until the end. because that's a negative. You're telling the audience right off the bat, hey, if you want something, I'm telling you in advance that the answer is going to be no and that you're going to have to wait. Instead, wrap a benefit statement into an instruction. Give them an instruction what to do with their question and wrap it up in a benefit. Here's what I mean by that. After I've given my statistic and I'm talking to the audience, I'm going to see that their attention is now being piqued. And so I might want to say something such as, now I know that many of you are going to have questions about this subject matter, and I want to make sure that I answer each one of your questions thoroughly and give your questions the attention that they deserve. But I also want to make sure that I honor you and your time and stay on track. So please, when you do have a question, jot it down so that you don't forget it. And then during the question and answer section at the end, ask that question and I'll be able to dedicate my full attention to answering it while keeping everyone on track. Sound good? And that's giving people an instruction, telling them what to do with their question, write it down, and telling them how that benefits them. Because then I'll be able to focus on it, answer it, and I won't waste your time. Because if you start to take questions during a presentation and you have a time limit, and that is not always a bad thing. Sometimes during my presentations, I will get overwhelmed with questions. One will lead to another, will lead to another, will lead to another, and that's okay. I structure many of my presentations with that in mind. And I think, you know what? If the audience takes this presentation in different directions, I'm going to go with that because that's really how they're going to get the most out of it. However, if you're giving a presentation that you have to have a set time limit on, and it's a very structured presentation, and people start to ask questions, you can very easily, very quickly find yourself in a situation where the audience is overwhelming you, distracting from your message, might throw you for a loop, and then you won't get done on time. People will be frustrated. They'll think you couldn't control the crowd. Now, one last thing on questions, just as a tip. When somebody asks you a question and you do not know the answer, it's very easy to say to somebody, and it's very honest and will actually endear you more to the audience. If you simply say, I cannot answer that with 100% certainty, so if you wouldn't mind shooting me a quick email with that question in it, or you can write it down or whatever, I'll make sure to get back to you with the answer, because before I answer it again, I want to make sure that the answer I give you is correct. Is that all right? So it's okay if you don't have the answer to say, gosh, I don't know, and then give them the answer later on. That's going to happen if it's a new subject matter for you. At this point, there's not many questions that people can ask me that I can't answer on the spot, but there still are some. And so when someone asks me a question and I don't have the answer to it, I'll tell them, I don't have the answer for you off the top of my head. There's something, it might be that there's something that's in here that I want to tell you, but I'm not 100% sure. So if it's all right with you, I'm going to follow up with you after this in an email. Is that okay? Shoot me an email with a question and I'll answer that. And answer questions honestly, have a set time frame for it at the end, and remember to give people instructions and a benefit when you're telling them to hold their questions until the end. So those are your public speaking tips for the week. If you have to give a presentation or something this week, use those tips and you will see how much more of an impact your presentations will have, because you can start them with a bang when someone else introduces you and you cite a compelling statistic. And now it's time for mail call. Mail. All right. I got a question from one of our YouTube viewers that said, 40. Dear Dan, say for example, if you have a disagreement with someone and you distrust them, how do you portray that distrust you have in them through your communication without offending them? Rusty, there is no way to tell somebody that you distrust them without offending them. So get this. Let's cover that question right away. You can't do it. So stop looking for a way. Having said that, the real question here is, why would you want to tell somebody that you distrust them? How does that serve you, or how does that serve that other person? Here's what I would suggest doing: a cost-benefit analysis. What would I get if I do X, Y, Z, and what would the price that I would have to pay be? For example, let's say that I make it clear to somebody, I don't trust you, and I want you to know I don't trust you, and I disagree with what you're saying, because I don't trust you. What's the benefit that we would get from that besides feeding our ego? Anytime we are feeding our ego to be right, there's never going to be a win-win that we can achieve. And it's our goal and our obligation, really, as savvy communicators, to find that win-win. So that cannot be done when we are simply choosing to be right. Remember that we can always choose to be right, or we can choose to be effective. We can choose to be right, or we can choose to be kind. So that said, instead of going down that path, what I suggest you do is practice habit number 5 from the 7 habits. Habit number 5, 7 habits, is by Stephen Covey, by the way. I'm going to cover that in one of these lessons because it's really quick. We can cover the 7 habits really quickly. and it's a great communication program. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand. Studies have shown, and the studies will be cited in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm not going to cite them here. Studies have shown that people who are effective in this world, who affect change, who get people to follow them, who lead productive lives, are those who know to seek first to understand other people, then to be understood by those people. It is not in our nature to do that, however. It is in our nature to think, hey, wait, I have something in my head and I want you to understand it. But instead, if we stop and think, you know what I'm going to do is try to understand you, why you think that way, what's going on in your brain. And then after I have done that and truly think, I understand you now, then if I choose to do so, I can seek to get you to understand me. But that's step 2. Step 1 is to seek to understand. And if you do that with this person, Rusty, what will happen is you will truly create a win-win if you seek to understand them. Why do we need to tell somebody when we don't distrust them? First of all, that's not in our best interests to put our cards up, face up on the table and say, just so you know, I don't believe a word you're saying. That doesn't serve us. It serves us to gain other people's trust. And we can do so by at least not demonstrating that we distrust them and disagree with everything that we say. By the way, just as a little caveat, remember, if you want to verbally express that you don't agree with somebody, a really savvy way to do it is simply talk about your point of view. For example, Rusty, I can understand why you'd see it this way. I simply see it differently. I can understand how you see it. I simply see it another way. But if you, instead of trying to get somebody to realize that you don't trust them, if you instead try to get to understand them, really understand who they are, where they're coming from, why they are thinking the way that they're thinking, you never know what will happen when you do that. That is what actually opens the door to possibilities. You might discover that there's some grain of truth to whatever it is that they believe. And you're creating a win-win. You are honoring them and showing them, I am a respectful, honorable person who's going to listen to you. And even if I don't agree with you and don't trust you, I'm not going to voice that. And that is going to strengthen our relationship. And that is a win for you because you feel as though you are being honored and respected. And that is a win for me because what I give to my brother, I give to myself. So if I'm honoring and respecting you, I am honoring and respecting myself. And that person will honor and respect me more. Only in doing that do I have the possibility of possibly transforming that person so that maybe in the future I could trust them a little bit. I could agree with them on certain things, but the only way I'm going to achieve that win-win is if I first open myself up to the possibility of understanding them. I don't need to agree with somebody to understand them. And it's during that process that we tend to have those aha moments where there's people that we all have them, I've had them, where I think, I don't trust a word you say. There's something wrong with you. And then I open myself up to learning about them. And as I'm doing so, I can't help but in the back of my mind think, I know you. But all of a sudden they say something that makes me say, what? Oh, now I get it. I understand a little bit more why you are the way you are. Wow. And we have these moments of epiphany where we think, now I understand. And that is another win-win. I have a new perspective into human behavior. And that person now and I have a stronger bond. That's always going to be a win-win for me. And maybe that person might have something to teach me. Even a broken clock is right twice a day, they say, right? So, Rusty, open yourself up to that possibility. Practice habit number 5, understand them. Do your cost-benefit analysis and ask yourself, what am I going to get out of telling somebody or making it clear to them in any way? I don't trust you, I never will, and I don't agree with you, and I never will. Nothing. Instead, try to be open to that person, listen to what they have to say, seek to understand them, and watch what happens then. Because, Rusty, your distrust of them and the feelings that you have where you want to feed your ego to make sure that they know what you think about them is not about them. That's about you. So that is your answer, Rusty. And make sure, everybody, to send in your letters to me, info@danO'ConnorTraining.com, or send me a video message. You can do that on YouTube at our YouTube channel. Power Diversity is our YouTube channel, or just look me up under Dan O'Connor Trainer. You'll find me. And I look forward to your further questions, guys. I like this mail call section of the week. I hope you do too. Send me your feedback. All right, now we are getting into our persuasion strategy for the week. And our persuasion strategy for the week is simple, yet it's effective and profound. To get buy-in when there is a change, either at work or at home, you need to set a new policy, you need to establish some new rules, you need to do something differently. We all know that change is not something that people easily accept, either at work or at home. The number one key to getting people to buy in, or to get people to buy in to change or to your new ideas or your new way of doing things, is to get them to feel as though their voice is heard during the decision-making process. When you're in the process of making a change in yourself, in your home, in your office, ask people, hey, this is going to be affecting all of us, so I'd like to get your input. Use questions such as, what do you think about? How do you feel about? What would you think about? What are your ideas on? Ask questions that start with those lead-in lines, because studies show that, and this was a Stanford study recently, that whether or not people's ideas are actually implemented when the change is made is irrelevant. The thing that gets them to buy into change is that they feel as though they were respected and their voice was heard during the decision-making process. So as long as you do that, then you can go ahead and make any decisions you like. Isn't that great? People just want to feel as though they're not invisible, as though their voices are heard and are counted. So the next time you need to get buy-in for your change, remember, just ask people, what do you think about? How do you feel about? I know this is going to be affecting you, so what are your thoughts on? And then you might get, by the way, some great ideas that'll help you make some good decisions along the way. But even if you don't, you will get much more buy-in for your ideas simply because you said to those around you, you are seen and your voice is heard. Communication principle. And now we have come to our communication principle of the week. And it is, oh, I like this one. You don't have to create the solution all the time. You just have to find it. Let's talk about that. This week, you're going to have some challenge that you will face that you're going to think you need to come up with a solution for, that you need to create a solution for. Sometimes that's the case, but often what happens is, it is said that in the universe, the moment things start to go off track, at that very moment something goes wrong, for example, with global warming, let's say, the moment something goes wrong in nature or in the universe, at that very moment, the process of correction instantly starts. As soon as there is a problem in nature, in the universe, the moment the problem occurs, at that same moment, the solution starts to manifest and the process of auto-correction begins. Because the universe really is auto-correcting. The universe is self-correcting. We don't have to fix it. Many of us take the responsibility on ourselves to be the fixers of all, the fixers of the whole universe. This week, you're going to have a problem and you're going to need a solution. But instead of trying to create a solution, remember, the universe is self-correcting. So instead of trying to create that solution, look for it. Many times when we look back in retrospect and on our lives, we realize that the solutions to the problems that we had, we didn't create. We recognized, we saw them, we found them. We didn't create solutions. They were already there. So that's what I would like you to do this week. Instead of trying to create a solution, the solutions are probably going to be right in front of you for whatever challenge it is that you're facing. So sit back, relax, recognize that, let go a little bit, be open and ready to receive the message that's being sent to you, the solution that's already right there in front of you. We can't be open and ready to see solutions or find solutions that are right in front of us when we're too busy with our own agenda in our head, thinking, no, the solution has to come from me. I have to fix everything. This is all my own. I'm doomed. No, what am I going to do? Look for the solution that already sits in front of you. Remember, I love fairy tales because fairy tales have been around forever. And they really do have, the reason they keep being passed on from generation to generation to generation is because the stories that they tell have a very profound meaning when you look into them. That's why they resonate with us. For example, in Cinderella, she thought she was doomed. She couldn't go to the ball. She was dressed in rags. All of her sisters were mean to her and left her there. It was in her own house, but she was being treated like a slave. And many of us can relate to that one. And she thought, oh, boo-hoo, woe is me, I can't go to the ball, everyone's going to have fun, and someone will get married, and it won't be me. And what ended up happening was, when her fairy godmother appeared, remember, her fairy godmother didn't say, I'm going to manifest a carriage for you, and manifest a dress for you, and manifest horsemen for you. That's not what she said. Hey, Cindy, look, the carriage is right there. You're just not looking at it right. The horsemen are already right there. Your ball gown, you're already wearing it. You're just not looking at things right. So let me help you with that. I'm going to give you some magic words. And all she did was give her a bibbity-bobbity-boo. And these things transformed that were already right in front of her because she had somebody manifest in front of her and say, hey, look, sister, you're just not looking at it through the right eyes. And all you need are some magic phrases to see things the right way. So I try to help give you those magic phrases. And you'll notice that, again, in many of these stories, even in the stories, for example, the Bible, I wish I was more familiar with other books like the Quran and other books on religion, but I'm most familiar with the Bible. And I know that, for example, even Jesus, if you read the Bible, and I'm not, again, this is not a spiritual podcast or video, but Jesus didn't say to people, oh, I'm going to cure you. He said, you're not sick to begin with. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to raise this person from the dead. He said, that person's not dead. Get up. You're just asleep. That's the type of thing he consistently said. He said, you're not looking at things the right way. You're not sick. You're not dead. You're not poor. This isn't water. It's wine. That's what he did. And that resonates with us on so many different levels, whether it's a fairy tale you're reading or a religious book that you're reading. There's something in us that knows what we're looking for is already right in front of us. We're just not seeing it correctly. So this week, when you have a challenge, remember, just give it a bibbity bobbity boo and watch how you'll start to see things. If you let go, you'll start to see that the solutions are already there. You don't need to create them. You just need to find them, because the universe, as well as your life, is self-correcting. So with that said, go for it this week. Speak in public. Remember, if you have a challenge with somebody and you want them to know how you feel about something, do your cost-benefit analysis and try to find that win-win. Seek first to understand. Remember that if you have a change coming up and you want to get people's buy-in, just ask them how they feel about it. And remember your principle of the week. Don't try to create the solution. Just find it. This has been Dan O'Connor. Remember to send me your questions at info@training.com or your video messages. I love those at our YouTube channel. And this is Dan O'Connor. Oh, buddy's taking a nap. By the way, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a new pal around the house for you. So look forward to meeting Maggie. She's going to be Bug life partner. So I thank everybody for joining us. Next week, we have some awesome stuff for you. So I can't wait to see you then. This is Dan O'Connor signing off.